It's always good to talk about Sunday politics on a Monday. Let's discuss, first of all, the car crash interview yet again from Richard Tice with Camila Tominey on GB News. First of all, you have to recognise something here. Our enemy is the media, because what they do, they gaslight people by referring to any gathering, anything that we do. You could be a dog breeder, you could be a sea captain. If you vote for reform or anything to do with Nigel Farage or anything that's remotely conservative, you're called far right. Even Conservative MPs are being called far right. So that's where we sit, because of the media. They're the enemy. They're the despicable characters that don't appear to have an honest bone in their body, and all they're interested in is their own egos, their very smart dresses and nice suits, and getting sound bites and getting on the telly. They love it. Now, I normally like Camila Tominey. I think she does some good interviews. And interviewing Richard Tice was pretty reasonable up until the point she decides to label the march on Saturday the Tommy Robinson rally. For a start, it wasn't to support Tommy Robinson. It was for disenfranchised people who have nowhere to go politically to gather together in good spirits, talk amongst themselves, meet and greet, meet people they met on the internet, create new contacts, reignite old ones, and generally have a very nice and pleasant day. There were dancing girls, there were speeches. You saw what went on. It was all in good humour. Now, unfortunately, she's firing questions at Tice. I'm not knocking the man, because he's obviously on our side of the fence. But he has had to step down from the position of leader. He's been sideswiped a bit. He's took it on the chin because of his faux pas before this. And as I've said before, I don't join political parties. And I have openly condemned Richard Tice for what he said about vaccines, for what he said about the rollout, for what he said about Ukraine. He's made a number of follies and come up with some what I see as batshit crazy ideas, and he would never have got a seat had it not been for Nigel Farage coming back to the front. None of them would. Perhaps Lee Anderson would, because he'd already got a track record. But the others were there because of the figurehead that decided to give up his cushy £1.2 million a year job and come back into the fray. Now, sadly, what we lack on the right is unity. We fracture so easily. The left don't do that. There are some groups on the left that actually hate each other, but they stick together. We don't. As soon as we see something we don't like, we're fractured. What Richard Tice said was clumsy and inappropriate, because he referred to us, I'm going to include me in this, he referred to us as that lot. He said it quickly. In fact, I've never seen him look as flustered when she said, what about the Tommy Robinson rally on Saturday? And he said he didn't want anything to do with those people, with that lot. Now, she's out of order. What gives her the right to call it the Tommy Robinson rally? As far as I can see, it was advertised as the Unite the Kingdom rally, and Tommy Robinson's public media company, Urban Scoop, were organising it. Tommy Robinson was a character, just like any other. So why does she have to single that out? Why do they have to weaponise our conservative viewpoint? Because they have to do that to stop us supporting the one vehicle that can create change. And that vehicle, it's irrelevant what they're called, it's the vehicle with the serving MPs. It happens to be reform. People are already spitting the dummy out and oh, that's it, I'll never vote for them again. Well, I'm using a bit of common sense here. When Richard Tice says that lot, he's afraid of his party coming into disrepute. Oh, and they'll do it in an instant. They can't wait for it. The Electoral Commission, the mainstream media, Sky News, Bethrick, all of them, they wouldn't be able to wait. It would be insatiable for them to see Richard Tice or anybody from Reform assimilate to anybody that's closely connected to Tommy. Now, a lot of my new friends in WhatsApp and politics have only joined the affray since lockdown because they got fed up with the tyranny, and rightly so. But many others that follow me have been fighting for freedom for a very long time, for myself since 2015, day after day, every single day. I don't miss. I never miss a day. So I am really invested in change. I am really so invested. I've had arguments with my husband about how much time I spend on it. I have never claimed any travel expenses back for anywhere I've gone. Every single podcast I do not take a fee. I don't mind taking a bit of money off YouTube, off Google, for doing this. That's up to them, because if I hadn't monetised my account, they were taking more notice of the guy who was plagiarising my work than they were of me, because they weren't earning any money from me. It's Google that's earning all the money. So I don't mind taking a bit off them, but I have never monetised my biggest account, which is Facebook. I still work on that every day. I don't charge any money. And when you're putting stuff out like this, it's not just putting it out, is it? It's the reading all the documents and reading the commentary that's unfolding all the time and digesting it and then putting it across in layman's terms. To put it bluntly, it's a lot of bloody work. So I am really, truly invested in change, make no mistake about that. And I have seen people come and go with bright ideas and big ideas and give up. Just give up. Now, the reason I won't give up, I've been in it too long, 9 years. How can I give up? And I want to live in my country. I don't want to have to abscond somewhere else to make my pound go further because I'm being taxed to death by a lunatic that's like Karl Marx with a deathly stare. So the way I see it, my support stays with the people. I don't care what they're called. It stays with the people that have been given the opportunity to change. It stays with the party that have got 97 second seats, if you know what I mean. They came second in 97 seats. That gives me hope, because that's voters who did bother to turn out, but didn't quite make it over the finish line. Believe me, after you've had another 12 months of Keir Starmer, that figure will grow, and the council elections are in between. Politics is a long, long ride. It's not a sprint. And Nigel Farage has been doing it for 30 years. And there'll be a reason for everything that Nigel does, because he is committed and he is savvy, he's politically savvy. And what I find disappointing is that what will happen with the right wing now, again, if we're not careful, is they'll fracture. They'll try and reignite UKIP or bring another new party to the forefront. That's not going to work. That's going to put us back 4 years. We've got a foot in the door, and whichever way you look at it, no matter how many rallies you have and what a fantastic day you have and how great it was and everyone was there, no matter how many of those occasions you have, you will not change one thing until someone is in Westminster and until there's enough of them in Westminster to affect government. Or let's face it, if there's enough of them in Westminster to become a government. So this is why I work now for the next 4 or 5 years. So that's my position. Tice, how inept was that? How stupid. But I'm affording myself the common sense to think he doesn't actually mean me. He's including me in it by default by saying that lot, because I do support the work that Tommy Robinson does. I do share his stuff. I do think he comes out with some good things, and I actually believe he's a threat to the mainstream media as an earning capacity because his documentaries are so good. I think they can't let him get off the ground because he shows them up for everything that they like. I mean, that's just business, isn't it? So the way I see it, I absolutely no way I would back away from supporting Nigel Farage moving forward with more MPs. Look how it's managed to showcase Rupert Lowe. Nobody really knew what his viewpoint was. We did a little bit. But since he's become an MP, the things he's done and brought forward for farming and the way he's assaulted DEFRA, it's absolutely fantastic. And we have a shed load of problems. And you're not going to win or change the country by prattling on about how much somebody isn't referring to Tommy Robinson or publicly making some exclamation of support. That is the kiss of death for anybody that wants to get in Westminster. The kiss of death. Ben Habib actually put something out saying that allies should stick together. And I support Ben. You know how strongly I support Ben. I've retweeted all his stuff, especially when he was campaigning for, was it Wellingborough? I've had a long relationship with Ben. He's politically savvy. He's very knowledgeable. But he came out and he said last night after this Twitter thing with, Richard Tice on GB News, and he said allies should stick together. But he was very careful in how he worded it. He never mentioned Tommy. And he wouldn't mention Tommy because if you assimilate yourself with Tommy, your invitations to go on Sky News, the BBC, GB News will dry up overnight. That's the landscape. It's not how I want it. It's not how I would have it. It's how it is. And you have to work around it. And reigniting UKIP or starting a new party, for me, is too long. We've already got a foot in the door. We're there, 5 MPs, 97 places, we came second. And I say we, I'm not a member of the party. I have never given a political party one bloody bean. I won't give them my money. I'll look at what they've got to say and I'll share the stuff if I agree with it. And I put time and effort in for nothing. That's my contribution, that's it. So no, I'm not paying for train tickets to go to rallies, and I am not giving any political parties or movements any money. I'm not spending any money on crowdfunding, sod off. I do this and my time has a value, however much you put on your time per hour. Because I put a lot of work into this and at great personal sacrifice. I've sat here on nice sunny afternoons when I could have been off doing things, looking at documents, going on Zoom calls, meetings. So that's where I sit. My support stays with the vehicle that will give me the change I'm fighting for, and that vehicle remains the Reform Party. No matter what anybody else says, that's the vehicle. That's it. That's how it is. And you don't have to agree with me. And you can desert Reform, I'm not bothered. All I'm doing is what my mother did for me when I was a child, and it stood me in good stead. And that is to make your decisions from an informed platform. And I'm informing you how bloody hard it is to get into Westminster, how difficult it is to get a seat. And Ben Habib didn't even get his seat twice. You can hardly believe a man of his standing would not be favoured in that respect. That's how hard it is to get into Westminster. You're 5 sat there. It doesn't matter whether Reform's the biggest shambles in the universe. It's irrelevant because the other parties are even worse. They just hide all their bad bits. And we've been stuck with them for decades. I'm bothered about rising costs, bills. I'm bothered about how much fuel is, energy, food. I'm bothered about how our political elite are spiffing money away overseas on any bloody thing. 11 billion to Africa because it's hot, and taking winter fuel allowance off pensioners. Where are you going to fight for that? You're not going to fight for that with a placard in the street. You've seen where going with a placard gets you. It's wrong on every level, but it doesn't change legislation. The only way to change legislation is to have people in place to vote against it, to not let it get off the ground, or public opinion. Write to your MP, let them know you're upset with them. Do it all the time, every day of the week. Repeat your email, send it multiple times. Don't wait for a reply. That's my fight. That's what I do.